Hey travelers, if you're watching this video, then we're assuming you've already decided that you are going to go to Death Valley National Park, and that you know it's one of the hottest and driest places on the planet.
If you don't know what we're talking about and you're like, what's Death Valley? Where is it? What is there to do there? Then check out our playlist that's linked in the description below. You can see all of our videos about Death Valley there. But for this video, we're going to share tips for things to pack that might not be very obvious. And the last item is actually something that you should not take.
All we ask in return is that you like this video if you find it helpful, and consider subscribing to our channel, because every single person that does is helping support us so we can make more videos like this.
Hi, I'm Phoebe.
And I'm Adam.
We're the couple behind In the Great Wide, and tip number 1 for stuff to pack for your trip to Death Valley is hand sanitizer.
There are bathrooms at several of the major attractions like Badwater Basin and Mesquite Flat Sand Dunes, but they're really just vault toilets and don't have running water where you can wash your hands.
So make sure you keep some hand sanitizer in your car, because if you don't have it, you'll probably end up wishing you did.
Even though the bathrooms at Furnace Creek Campground have running water and sinks to wash your hands, there wasn't any soap provided when we were there.
The only places that had soap in the bathrooms were the Furnace Creek Visitor Center and the saloons in Furnace Creek and Stovepipe Wells. So if you're staying at the campground, you might also want to take some hand soap, unless you're cool with using hand sanitizer 90% of the time.
Number 2, a first aid kit.
We kept our first aid kit in our car while we were out and about in the park, and we did have to use it a couple of times.
Phoebe cut her finger pretty badly on a plastic container we had in the car, and it needed to be sanitized and bandaged up.
We also saw a man coming back down Mosaic Canyon with a bloody elbow. He said that he slipped and fell on the trail, which did have some places where it was very slippery, and it wasn't like you could just go around and avoid it. So just make sure you're prepared for some small cuts at the very least.
We'll put a link in the description for the first aid kit we have. It's small and can fit in your glove box.
But we have added a few things to it and changed some stuff out, so if you'd like for us to do a video about that, just let us know in the comments.
Number 3 is kind of a weird one. Take Windex or something like it to clean off your car windows on the go so you can take pictures out of the windows.
You're going to do a lot of driving around in this national park to get to all the cool stuff you want to see, and it's going to be dusty, and bugs are going to fly into your windshield. But the landscape is incredible, and I'm betting that you're going to want to take a lot of pictures like we did.
Unless you're skilled with Photoshop and have a lot of time on your hands, you're not going to want to edit all the spots out of your photos from all the crap on your windshield.
We really wish we would have had something to clean the windows with while we were there, so that's being added to our camping packing list for all of our future trips.
Speaking of bugs, number 4, bug spray.
For a place that's called Death Valley, it's surprising how much wildlife is there, and some of that is bugs.
Oh my god, there were huge horseflies that hung out our campsite during the day. Huge.
Yeah, but most of the bugs come out at sunset and then they stay out all night. There were actually a ton of bugs around Lake Manly at Badwater Basin when we went for sunset, but they weren't there the day before when we were there in the afternoon.
If you're planning on doing some stargazing, make sure that you have bug spray.
We also got a new bug zapper right before we went on this trip, and it worked really well at our campsite at night.
It was actually a little gross because there were so many dead bugs, but it did its job.
Tip number 5 is to pack extra socks.
Because of how dry it is in Death Valley, you probably won't feel yourself sweating except for inside your sneakers.
We took our socks and shoes off to walk in Lake Manly. You can hear more about that in our Badwater Basin video, but putting our sweaty socks back on afterwards was really not fun.
If you plan to do any hiking, you'll probably want a pair of socks in the morning and then another pair for later in the day.
Tip number 6 to pack is quick breakfast foods.
Death Valley is much more enjoyable to be out exploring before 10 a.m., and it's actually crucial to be done with any strenuous activities like hiking by 10 a.m. in the warmer months between April and October.
That means you'll need to be up and out exploring pretty early, so make sure you have some breakfast foods that you can grab and eat quickly so you don't lose any of that precious time before the heat sets in.
Protein bars and fruits are really good options.
And still on the topic of hiking, number 7 is hiking poles.
Not all of the trails need hiking poles, but some of the canyons can get really slippery.
We actually had to turn around on Mosaic Canyon after a fairly short time because we got to a slippery section that couldn't be avoided, and I couldn't risk slipping and falling while I'm still recovering from my back injury.
If we had hiking poles, we probably could have made it.
Yeah, we also saw some people with hiking poles on the Mesquite Flat sand dunes, which we thought was really clever.
We didn't go out far enough on the dunes to actually need them, but if you plan on really exploring the dunes, hiking poles will definitely make it easier.
Now, tip number 8 for packing is for the campers out there. If you're like us and you want to have a campfire for cooking or just for ambiance, you'll need to have an axe to chop the firewood into smaller logs and to get some kindling.
Remember, you should not be bringing in firewood from outside the park because of invasive insects and or diseases that you can't see.
It's also illegal to gather firewood or kindling from the landscape inside national parks, so buying firewood is your only option.
Because Death Valley is so huge, that means you'll need to buy your firewood inside the park at either Furnace Creek or Stovepipe Wells.
Pro tip, it's cheaper at Stovepipe Wells.
But for whatever reason, they only sell logs and no kindling inside the park, so you'll need to chop it up a bit to at least get some kindling.
This was our first time using this axe that my brother-in-law got for us, and Adam absolutely loved it.
Never felt more useful than chopping logs.
Also, if you're planning on having a campfire, then tip number 9 is actually required. You need to get a California campfire permit.
It's totally free, and you can get one in a few minutes online.
You just have to watch a simple safety video, learn about the other items that you should have with you while your fire is going, and how to properly put it out at the end of the night, and then you answer a few questions.
You get a simple certificate that you can then print out so you can show to the park rangers if they ask for it.
If you don't have a California campfire permit but have a campfire going, the rangers are allowed to kick you out of the park.
Also keep in mind that it has to be renewed every calendar year.
Wildfires are a real problem in California, so please just take a few minutes to get the permit and so you can keep everyone safe while you enjoy your campfire.
So tips number 10 through 15 we're going to go through really quickly because we already talked about them in our last video about how to stay hydrated and relatively cool in Death Valley.
There will be a link in the description if you want to go watch that video for more context, and then we'll get into the bonus tip about what not to take.
Number 10, lotion.
Number 11 is chapstick.
Number 12 is a cooling towel.
We like to use ones from a brand called Frog Togs that hold water and stay cool for way longer than a normal towel.
Number 13, sports drinks with electrolytes.
Number 14 is large jugs that you can refill with drinking water at the Furnace Creek campground if you're staying there.
And number 15, a water bottle or hydration backpack that's easy to carry while walking, but that also has decent insulation so your water can stay relatively cool.
Now on to that bonus tip we mentioned. Number 16 is actually about not taking stuff from the park or disturbing the landscape while you're there.
Don't take rocks, sand, salt, or anything else from the landscape.
And don't stack the salt chunks at Badwater Basin or the Devil's Golf Course, and don't carve into the salt flat or trees.
First off, it's not good for the environment. If you want a souvenir, buy one from the gift shop at the visitor center or the general stores in the Furnace Creek or Stovepipe Wells.
And second, it's incredibly disrespectful to not only the other visitors around you and to future park visitors, but also to the indigenous people who still live in Death Valley.
Yes, there are indigenous people that still live in Death Valley.
We've seen videos of people doing this kind of stuff, and we saw the remnants of people having done it while we were personally in the park, so just please don't be that person.
Respect the landscape and leave it how you found it or better.
If you've already been to Death Valley, tell us your other tips in the comments that you wish you would have known before you went.
Our goal is to build a community where we can pool knowledge from people all over the world to help make each other's experiences when we travel that much easier and that much better.
Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the Great Wide somewhere.
Mississippi Queen, if you know what I mean. I don't know the words to the rest of that song.
Such a good job.
Thanks.